positivity is a place that we choose to go. Positivity is the types of things that we choose to take on. Positivity is the ability to get within yourself. And so the process is more important than the solution. The process of being who you are on the inside is the most important piece. The challenges that you're going to go through on a daily basis are a blessing. The things that you're going to do on a daily basis are made for you. And so if you're asking yourself these types of questions, how can I put myself into a positive place in what's going on today? Recognize that people have been going through challenges yesterday, tomorrow, next week. We had things like the Spanish, uh, you know, plague. We had things like, influenza, for instance. So there's things that haven't had the ability to stop us. It's up to us to put ourselves in a place where we utilize the challenges that we have, that we utilize the ability to go within ourselves, that we utilize the things that we have in front of us so that we can overcome our own challenges. And the person who's willing to focus the most ends up achieving their goals. The person who's willing to focus the most achieves their dreams. And that can only be done through focusing. That can only be done when you're willing to not give up. That can only be done when you're willing to say that it's you versus you, that there's no challenge that you can't overcome. Welcome, blessings, Oscar. As I see all these people starting to join in and to share this and to help other people out, I start to see the changes that are happening around us. I start to see that there's nothing that can't be overcome. And so as we put ourselves in a place of focus, as we give ourselves the ability to get within ourselves, as we recognize that there's no challenge that we can't overcome, we start to get to a place where focus becomes a tool. And so the question more so is, are you utilizing the tools that you do have? Are you utilizing the things that you have in your day so that you can become that kind of reflection, where you can motivate people on a daily basis, where the challenges that you're facing off against daily are a blessing? And so a lot of us don't focus into that. A lot of us don't put ourselves in a place where those challenges can be overcome. And so because we don't overcome our own challenges, we want to blame somebody else. And so instead of blaming somebody else, put it on ourselves to be able to overcome challenges. Let other people be the ones who call you inspiration. You call yourself focused. You call yourself an achiever. You call yourself the inside of the challenges that you're facing off against, where the process is more important than the solution, because none of us have so far made it out of this life alive. We've all met our maker, so if all of us are together in this thing and we're united in the ability for us to find a positive angle, to find positivity in every situation, to find positivity in every challenge, then that ultimately means that what's coming out of you is your process. That when other people see their own process and they see how you're able to overcome your own challenges, like when I was sleeping in my car for 2 months delivering food, when I had the dogs inside of the car with me, when I was in a place where I didn't think it was possible to overcome my own challenges. And then I look at the stuff that's going on right now as a blessing. I look at the challenges that we're facing off right now as a blessing. I look at the ability to become simplified as a blessing. I look at the ability to go within ourselves to find the answers as a blessing. And so when we start to see this, we start to give out blessings. At a certain point, I could no longer say thank you because I was utilizing the blessing. No. I was asked if I'm autistic. You see, somebody who has a high level of understanding is related to by one type of people with gifts of focus. You see, I have a gift of focus. I have the ability to recognize that that is a reflection outwards, that what we utilize on the inside becomes that kind of reflection, to be able to help people out from the outside, from within yourself, is a blessing. But you can only do that if you start to utilize the tools that you do have. You can only do that if you utilize what you have inside of yourself. You can only do that if you utilize the challenges that you face off against on a daily basis and identify that in a positive way And if you allow the things that aren't positive to move out of the way, if you allow the things that are not meant for you to move out of the way, if you stay in a positive place, then you're going to need to listen to to motivational speakers. You're going to need to shut off the radio. You're going to need to shut off the news. You're going to need to listen to yourself. You're going to need to say that tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, I'm alive. So I better look at the most positive angle. I better find the way to overcome my own challenges. And so there's not a single challenge that we can't overcome. And so what does it take, when you're 17 and you can't read, and you're looking at your driver's test and saying, is this possible? It's going to take a requirement of you learning to study. It's going to require you to take your own hand aside and say, it's time to sit down and read a book. What about that? What about then when you are within yourself and you're overcoming your own challenges, right? So I want you to recognize that you are a blessing. I want you to recognize that it's only you versus you. There's no one else that's going to be across that table from you when you're facing off against yourself. There's no one that's going to be in there when you're shivering by yourself, when other people are trying to figure out what's wrong with you instead of you figuring out what's wrong with yourself. See, when you are willing to be you versus you, you can overcome amazing things in this world. You can become something that nobody else can. And when you're under, you can find a way to get to the top. You can find a way to make it up. Everybody loves the underdog because they all know inside truly that when you get your tail kicked, that it's the person who gets up that achieves their dreams. It's the person who gets up who achieves their goals. And that's going to require a level of focus. That's going to require you to go within yourself to find the answers. And so a lot of times people aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to go on their inwards journey. They're not willing to go into themselves to become that kind of reflection. They want everybody else to do it for them. They want it easy. And because it's easy, it ends up turning out hard for them. Because if they were honest with themselves and they were going through it and enjoying the process, then other people would call them motivation. The reason why they're only called a motivation and they don't hit the stage where people call them a knowledge of reflection of inspiration is because that's all they're doing. All they're doing is focusing. They're not connecting it. They're not getting it. They're not getting to that place inside of themselves where their process is a joy, where their challenges are a joy, where they're taking their challenges and they're turning them into positive angle, where they're taking everything that they're going through on a daily basis and recognizing this had to be here for me to overcome. See, the person who starts to overcome their own challenges starts to recognize that everything that goes on around them is there for them. Are you there for you? Are you in that place where those challenges that you're facing off against don't have the ability to stop you? And so that's what happens when you put yourself inside a sauna for a period of time. Those things that might have stopped you, they no longer live in that way. They no longer have that place to stop you from being yourself. And so when it's you versus you and all you got is your breath, you better learn how to utilize it. You better recognize the blessings that you have. And that was the one thing that people were fearing. They were fearing the ability for the breath to be taken from them. What about then? Are you able to write stuff down to where you can see, I can achieve this goal, I am this strong? And that is going to show on the outside. It's the person who can say, I am focused, and that this is my journey, this is my path, this is my struggle, and it's up to me to be able to be the one to overcome it. It's up to me to utilize this universe and the Most High in this universe in such a way that I become that blessing, that I see the blessing that I am. And the person who's willing to do that achieves their dreams. And the person who's not willing to do that will not achieve their dreams. And so that is what it's about. It's about getting to the point where you're no longer a slave, where you are in control of your day, where you're in control of your week, your month, your year. And it's up to you to take that, because there's a lot of people who want to take that from you. They want you to come to a position where you work a 9 to 5 rather than you find a way to be yourself. They want you to say to yourself, there's no way for me to do anything other than live by their rules, by their regulations. When you regulate your own life, when's the day you start to say to the world, I'm going to pay myself first? When is the day that you put yourself in a place where there's no challenge that you can't overcome? That you decide to put yourself in a place where you can face off against your own challenges. And so that's when I started to realize that when we take everything away from ourselves and we are who we are, that is the beginning. That is the place where the challenges that you face off against start coming to you. That is where, when you have nothing, you have everything. When we have nothing, that's when we have everything. When I was sleeping in my van and I was delivering food and I had 2 dogs and everything I had was inside the car that wasn't in a storage unit, and I recognized that I was washing my clothes and I was doing everything that I had, and I was putting myself in a place where I was starting to put myself first. These are the types of stories I started to remember, that I could overcome these challenges, that I could become the person inside, that the reflection would shine outwards from within, that there was nothing that had the ability to stop me from being myself. My relationship with the Most High started to get stronger when I had nothing to stop me from that relationship, because I was utilizing this universe. I was utilizing the challenges that I had. And I want to share this with you, that you can see that in yourself. You can see those challenges in those dark places. You can see those challenges when nobody else wants to be there for you. And when you see that inside of yourself, when you see those types of challenges, you start to create just a little bit of light inside of yourself. It just starts to come out in such a way that you start to use your tools that you have for you, like reading, like positive thinking, like positive speakers, like positivity coming out of yourself, breathing from within you. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They want some kind of a special place to give to them instead of look inside of themselves. They want some kind of a special place to answer for them instead of look inside of themselves. And so they don't find it because they don't look inside of themselves first. They don't ask themselves these types of questions. Is it me versus me? Am I the only challenge that I have to overcome? And so the day that I realized that self-love was just self-knowledge, that I could overcome my own challenges, that I could be my own person, that I could become a reflection on the outside of how I felt on the inside, that was a place of liberation. That was a place of freedom. That was a place of reflection outwards. And so when I understood this, when I got to this place where I am now, I wanted to share it with you. I wanted you to realize that you could overcome your own things, that you could love yourself through understanding the knowledge inside of you, that the things that you're going through you are tailor-made for. And so when I started to recognize that, I started to use the tools of writing stuff down. I started to use the tools of giving myself the ability to become a fortification inside of myself, that the challenges that I faced off against were me with the utilization of the Most High Creator. When I went from 100% God to 100% me, 10% God, right? So I took responsibility for my own challenges. I took on my own challenges even if they weren't perfect, because nobody is perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I claim to be a person who faces off against their own challenges, one at a time, moving forward. It's not what happened in the past. It's what we do in the future. It's how we find the positive angle now. It's how we find out how to utilize the challenge that you're facing off against today so that you can overcome it, so you can have a brighter tomorrow. It's finding a way to turn it into a positive angle, to give yourself the ability to overcome the one thing that you look at as, which is you. Are you looking inside of yourself for those types of places instead of outwards? And that's when you start to have that kind of reflection, That's when people start to call you an inspiration. That's when they start to call you a motivation. So you call yourself focused. You call yourself a person that no matter the situations going on around you, you can overcome. And it's going to require a level of focus to where when other people say you can't do it, that you put yourself in that place to overcome those types of challenges. And so a lot of us are going to face off against those kinds of challenges. A lot of us are going to be in that type of place. A lot of us are going to be going through those types of um, questions from this universe. Is this journey worth it? Is your answer going to come out, yes, it is? That's the type of thing you got to ask yourself. And so this is what it's about. It's about getting yourself to the place where the focus becomes your mentality, where the focus becomes your adaptation, where the challenges that you're facing off against you overcome. And so as we overcome our own challenges, the reflection outward starts to become that other people start to call you things. And when you're focused to that point, they're going to call you positive and negative things. Are you ready for both sides of that and identifying how to utilize that in a way of focus? Utilize that in a way that those challenges don't have the ability to stop you. And so that's the type of questions we have to ask ourselves. We have to ask ourselves, can we overcome these things? Can we become this kind of blessing? Can we face off against these kinds of challenges? And so that is absolutely a blessing to have those kinds of challenges in front of us so that we can overcome our own challenges. So are you writing down the challenges that you're going through? Are you finding the positivity in every situation? Are you becoming that person inside that has the ability for it to no longer have an effect on you? And so when I shared the challenges that I've gone through with you, when you see that they have the ability to bring the blessings to you, when they have the ability for you to overcome you, when they have the ability from within you to become a light. And so when you see that kind of a thing, that means that you are a tool in this universe, that the challenges that you're facing off against are made for you. And so if you're hearing what I'm saying, recognize that when you use this universe in the right way, you have the ability to absolutely change the world around you from you being yourself, which means you never changed. You were just being honest with yourself. Let other people see that and let them decide that that's the change. Let them decide that you just focus on your own path and on your own journey. And yes, you're going to face off against challenges. Yes, things are going to come against you. Yes, they're going to be there to ask you if you'll let them stop you. And that is the blessing in our day. That is the blessing in our way. When we hit that place of focus, it starts to go inwards. When we hit that place of focus, it starts to ask you these types of questions. Is this torque going to have the ability to stop you? And that's why we got to focus on doing one thing very well. We got to do the ability to focus on these challenges that we face off against with the gifts that we have. And it's never about what you don't have, because what you don't have anyways. So it requires you to use what you do have. It requires you to ask yourself these types of questions. What kind of blessing are you? Are you answering that type of question as I am so focused that anything that I take on is a blessing? You see, each blessing that we have in front of us gives us ability to face off against a different kind of challenge. It's the people who focus past that that achieve their dreams. It's the people who focus past that that achieve their goals. And so the more you achieve your goals, the more you achieve your dreams, the more you go within yourself to find the answers. And so a lot of people aren't willing to do that. So they don't achieve that. They don't get to that place inside of themselves where they know that they're worth it. They don't get to that place inside of themselves where they find time for themselves. They don't find that place inside of themselves where they find that the external becomes that kind of reflection. And so they don't get that able mentality going. It's up to you to put yourself in that place where that able mentality is within you. It's up to you to find that place inside of yourself where that able mentality is you. And a lot of times we look elsewhere for that instead of inside of ourselves. Isn't it about time you look inside of yourself instead of elsewhere? We see this thing as a beautiful thing when we look from the right angle. When we look from the right angle, we see that I could hand you a football or I could hand a professional a football. The difference is their level of focus. The difference is their determination. The difference is their ability to continue even when other people said it was impossible. I remember a friend in high school. Before high school, he had no hope. He was over 350 pounds overweight. His name was Dustin. And so he didn't believe in himself. We got into high school and he started water polo with us. He started wrestling. He got to the point where he overcame that. Ultimately, he realized that he had to shock his body. He realized later on, looking back at him, as he had a six-pack and he was getting ripped like I was. And he was getting to the place where he was overcoming his own challenges. He ultimately answered back at me and said, the only way for the body to change is when one wants it enough that it puts it through a shock, that it gets what it wants. Are you putting yourself through these shocks where your body is becoming a reflection on the outside, where the challenges that you're facing off against on every level is you, where this world is shocked by your ability to be yourself? And so I recognized that that was a purpose. That had its own purpose. That was a lesson not only that he had learned, but also that I had learned. I had learned that when we put ourselves in a place of focus, it's going to shock other people. When we put ourselves in a place of focus, sometimes it's going to shock ourselves. And so when we're willing to do that, amazing things can come out of it. You see that person who's willing to focus to that point, to achieve that, and everybody's in shock that they were able to do that. They weren't there on those dark days. They weren't there in those dark places. They weren't there in those challenges that they were facing off against. But yet then later they're shocked that they were able to do that. I learned that lesson that day, when I saw that six-pack and I recognized that he had overcome his own challenges. That when we have the ability to face off against our own challenges, that we can become amazing things in this world. That we can face off against amazing challenges on a daily basis. And so when I started to relate that to my day, when I started to relate that to my week, when I started to relate that to my year, I started to shock people. And they started to see that focus is the only thing that existed. Knowledge was the only place to go. We have that kind of thing inside of ourselves. We have those kinds of challenges just waiting for you. We have those kind of places inside of ourselves that we can overcome. See, a lot of people don't answer that question. We don't give ourselves that place. We don't overcome our own challenges because we're not willing to go within ourselves. So I'm telling you, the person that's willing to go within themselves with their own relationship and utilization of the Most High has the ability to utilize the tools on the face of the planet far beyond the one who has all the tools in front of them. Because the tool of the Most High is the utilization in a way that this universe puts 100% on you and 10% beyond. And that is a special place to go. That is a special type of challenge. That is a special type of place to be yourself. And a lot of times, we're not utilizing this. So I recognized that when I was at a gas station and I had no gas and I knew I needed to go somewhere. And I believed that I was going to give everything that I had. Every challenge that I was facing off against was no longer 100% God and 10% me. It was 100% me and 10% that little farther that the Creator could bring me. Because I was that 100% that was being used by the Creator. That I was that 100% that was needed to be myself. That I was that 100% that wasn't going to put it somewhere else when I need to put it right here. And so when I got to that place, when it was able to be that kind of a thing, that liberation started to come out. That freedom of focus started to come to be. That place inside started to become a reflection. And so that is a blessing that you have those types of challenges on a daily basis. You can utilize what I'm talking about in a professional aspect in your daily life, in your week, in your walk with the Creator. Because when we answer with the answer that we're going to take 100% for us, and that it's us moving forward, it's us putting ourselves in a way where even if we fall, we get back up. Even if we fall, we become a blessing. Even if we fall, we have the ability to overcome our own challenges. And that is a blessing in itself. You are a blessing. And so what people understand and recognize as motivation started from the day when that person was able to focus. So when you see people that say they can't be motivated, they just can't find a way, what they're really saying is, I'm not focused. I'm not putting my investments into the thing that is right here in front of me. I'm not putting myself in the place where what is reflecting outwards is focus. And that it's you that identifies that I am motivated. It's you that's going to call me the names positive and negative. What I'm looking for is a place of focus into positivity. I'm looking for a way that if everything broke down around me, I'm going to still stay together. I'm putting myself in a place where I'm on a different level, to where it's you versus you, where it's me versus me, where the challenges that we face off against yesterday, today, tomorrow, next week are ultimately my own fault, that I am also my own cure, that I have the ability to overcome any challenge that comes against me, that I'm going to turn anything that's negative into a positive source, that the ability to serve the Most High is going to come through this, that the blessings that you see inside of yourself, the motivation that you see as a reflection coming from here, is for you to be yourself. That when you are yourself, you are not selfish, you are actually being selfless. Other people will see that, and they'll see you being who you are on your own focus, and they'll recognize that they are a blessing as well. See, that's the place of positive thinking. That is the place where when I was doing things that were impossible, like inside of sauna working out, when other people couldn't even do it, they wanted to tell me on both sides, wow, you're amazing. At the same exact time, they wanted to say you're impossible. And so impossible is just a word to the one who's willing to focus past it. Impossible is just the ability to find the able angle. Impossibility is to find the able mentality. And that can only come when you look within yourself. That can only come when you find that you are focused, that you are writing stuff down, speaking stuff out, listening to positivity, utilizing the things that you don't have and putting aside everything that you don't have. What happens then when you beat the game as handicapped? What happens then when you achieve your dreams and your goals? What happens then when the tools during the Great Depression made the most millionaires? How can we explain this then? It's all because it's the same thing that's going on yesterday, today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. It's the person who's willing to use the tools that they have who achieves. It's the person that's willing to utilize the tools that they have that has the ability to answer the question, what kind of gifts do I have? It's the person then who starts to see that it's a beautiful thing to be here, that we are a blessing on the face of this planet, that we were brought to life. The breath that's inside of us is a blessing. The challenges that you face off are connected with that breath inside of your body to get to that place where that absorption is coming inwards. And so most definitely Newton's third law. For each action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Are you connecting your breath on that level? Are you getting to that place inside of yourself where you are overcoming your own challenges? See, the only person who can answer is that's when we have an able mentality. That is when we become an able body inside. That is when the challenges that we face off against on a daily basis start to become overcome. And that's why a lot of people, when they focus to that place, they have to ask the Creator, can we do this? Ask yourself this question and let the Creator work through you. Let the relationship that you have is 100% you and 10% beyond you. That when you hit that barrier where you are taking on this world in such a way that it becomes that kind of a blessing, realize it's definitely going to test you. And that's where you're going to have to go inwards. That's where you're going to have to be inside of yourself. That's where you're going to have to start creating an absorption of focus so that you can start to use the tools that are for you. So that you can get inside of yourself to find the student, which you are, inside of this classroom. Inside of this classroom, which is you. And so when you start to recognize that you are so focused that you're preparing the student to have the able mentality, that when you're inside of your breath with your breath and you, when your breath becomes your best friend, when you give yourself the ability to be that student with that ingoing breath, that is a blessing in itself. And so when we get to that place where we start to put that energy inwards and we start to apply it in an inwards direction, you're going to have to start facing off against yourself. And this is where the scientific energy fields come possible. That is where the ability to break down those challenges lay, like being able to stand your ground, like being able to work through your thought process so you overcome it, so you understand every challenge can be turned positive, like being able to voice yourself, work on the things that are going on in your own hearts, work on your nervous system. And that is all from knowledge. That is all from the ability to go within yourself with the student being your breath. When you master your incoming breath, you still haven't mastered yourself. You still have your center breath. You still have your outgoing breath. You still have the challenges that you're facing off against on a daily basis. You still have the things that you're going through on a daily basis. You still have the lessons that you're going through. And so it's going to require you to go within yourself to start to extract that kind of knowledge. And so when you are so focused that the things that are not knowledge move out of the way, that's when the emotion moves aside to give you the ability to learn from your own lesson. And so as you go into yourself and you break down with your own level of focus, you're going to go through the chapters of you. You're going to go through the pages of yourself. You're going to go through the answers to yourself. This was meant for me. And when you answer it as yes, all of those emotions are going to start to move aside. When you start to feel alone in the dark, when you start to feel alone in the dark in the place that was meant for you, you will find the answers which you seek, which is that knowledge is liberation. Knowledge is what the highest wants you to understand. He wants you to understand yourself so that you can become a blessing, so that you can go into the dark place inside of yourself and overcome, so that you can overcome yourself in every way, so that you can be that person inside of yourself that the Most High created you to be, a tool of knowledge and focus. We see this inside of ourselves as a place of blessing. We see this inside of ourselves as a place of reflection. We see this inside of ourselves as a place of growth. And so when we find that place, when we overcome those kinds of challenges, when we get to that place inside of ourselves where the reflection starts to shine outwards, we start to recognize that the tools that we do have is what it's about. We start to recognize that there's no challenge that we can't overcome when we're willing to go within ourselves, when we're willing to find the freedom inside of ourselves. And that's why the British didn't let the common people read the Bible. Because as soon as they started to gain knowledge, they knew that they had the ability to free themselves. Can you see this story inside of you? Can you see this story inside of yourself? Can you overcome your own challenges? Can you become that person on the inside that shows outwards? And that is a blessing. You are a blessing. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about meditation now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the dark tunnel itself and why each individual is on their own path. I'm going to talk about the things that people don't want to talk about. They don't want to tell you. I'm going to tell you about the things that people don't want you to hear. The only person who is a solution for themselves is themselves. The only person who can go within themselves to become an inner light is you. The only person who can find that kind of knowledge is you. The only person that can find that kind of solution inside of yourself is you. And you're the only one who can free yourself. And so remember that you were born by yourself. There were people there that were companionship for you. There were people there that were there, but they couldn't breathe your breath at that time. They couldn't speak for you. They couldn't do things for you. No matter how much they wanted to, it was still you. They could be a light for you. They could bring your light a little bit brighter. They could inspire you, but they could never be you. And they will never be you. So there's no point to try to be a copycat of anybody else when you can be yourself. And so a lot of times the knowledge to be that is because we're trying to copy somebody else. You know, when we don't want to copy somebody else, we want to go within ourselves to find the answers. Then we will find the answers. When we want to go within ourselves to find the solutions, we will find the solutions. When we want to go within ourselves to find the knowledge, we will find the knowledge. And so, if we breathe our own breath, if we live our own journey, if we put ourselves in a place where we become that kind of a blessing, then you start to recognize that this is for you. This place is tailor-made for you. These types of challenges are absolutely in front of you so that you can overcome them. These types of challenges are there for you so that you can become that kind of reflection on the outside. But it's going to require you to go within yourself. It's going to require you to start to recognize that you can overcome your own things when you're willing to focus and gain the knowledge inside of yourself. That yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be individual. Yes, each challenge is going to be hard. And yes, there's going to be people who are going to come in your way in a way of positivity and negativity. That is an important piece of your own journey. What is most important is that you're on your own journey. What is most important is that your light shines brighter. That the connection with your knowledge and your focus is a blessing. That nothing has the ability to stop you from being yourself. Even if they put handicaps in front of you, you're going to find a way to turn those handicaps into your advantage. You're going to find the way that everything in your life is a lesson, and the ability to connect them is you. When you find that kind of blessing inside of yourself, when you kind of find that kind of answer inside of you, that is when the blessing shines out from within you. That's when this becomes a discipline. When the external becomes that reflection of your journey, you become that kind of a blessing. And that blessing of discipline is a reflection. That reflection is called inspiration. You all have the ability to be that kind of light in this universe. You all have the ability to use your knowledge and your focus. We have seen stories of people doing this, utilizing their own journey to connect their knowledge to a place where the external becomes that kind of a blessing, where they utilize themselves to overcome their own challenges, where this thing was put in front of them and just somehow they made it through it by being themselves. Just somehow they overcame their own challenges. And so, are you seeing the blessing of you in your day? Are you seeing the blessing of you in your week? Are you seeing the blessing of you in every challenge that's placed in front of you? Because when you connect with this discipline, where you only do one thing well at a time, you can only do you well. You can only be you well. You can only face off against the challenges that you face off against on a daily basis. And you can only do those well with an able mentality. You can only do those well when you're doing one thing very well at a time. Can you be you first? That is a blessing. That is knowledge and focus connection. And that is an inspiration. As you recognize inside of yourself that you are an inspiration, this world will see your light. I do hope that you all have a blessed day. As always, namaste.